Welcome to the Black on Shelf podcast, a podcast championing Black and Brown entrepreneurs on the digital and physical shelves. I'm your host, Tanaj Ferguson. This is Black on Shelf. All right, so Angela, I'm so excited that we get to talk today. Before the podcast started, I was talking about how this is such an important conversation that I really wanted to get in. And Angela is a super busy entrepreneur, so we took some time to get this, but I was bent on making sure I got to talk to her about what it looks like to own a non-toxic cleaning brand. And this is exciting. Angela, if you could talk to us about your background, that would be great. What I know so far is that you have a degree in English and that you wanted to be an educator initially. So now you're seeing yourself as a whole entrepreneur. I have to hear about how you started on this journey and really centering from where you're from, some of your interests and kind of shadowing how it makes sense that you're an entrepreneur today.
Sure. Thank you, Tanaj, for having me on this Black on Shelf podcast. I truly appreciate it. So yes, I have a bachelor's degree in English. I wanted to be a publisher. I wanted to have my own publishing company probably like 20 years ago.
Wow.
When I was in school. And it just did never happen. And so I went into higher education, working at community colleges, helping students pay for their education. I worked in the financial aid office as a financial aid analyst for probably about 10, 11 years. Then went on and did a little time in social work. And so, I've always wanted to teach people, help people. I guess I became an entrepreneur. I watched my grandmother growing up as an entrepreneur. She was a hustler, and so she would work. She worked in like foster care and had like several different group homes that she had. Like she actually owned the homes, and so they were her businesses. And she had employees and clients and all that for like, she raised me. So she raised me in Aurora, Colorado. I'm originally from California, but she raised me from young, so like 7 to 18. And then, so I watched her, do her business. And then also on my dad's side, my grandfather was also an entrepreneur, but in real estate. And so he owned several homes. And so I guess it kind of just runs in my family. It was never a goal of mine to become an entrepreneur, but with going down my eco-friendly journey, started in basically 2011. I got interested in natural hair, and I did the big chop in I would say March of 2012. Okay. And I started looking for hair products that had I didn't know anything about eco-friendly. So I guess natural. I was looking for, I don't know. I don't know that I knew what I was looking for.
Right. I think we all were just looking for things that might have appealed to like Afro or kinky hair.
My goal was
conventional, right?
Yeah,
my goal went through going through a natural hair journey literally the same time, like 2011 when I graduated from undergrad.
Yeah,
that was the time when it was coming to light for sure.
Yeah, I was watching YouTube, and I did that for like a year. I remember when Rochelle Graham from Alakay Naturals was Black Onyx on YouTube. I don't know if you remember her.
I do. I mean, that's what we learned from at the time.
And so she didn't have her business at the time, but she was just talking about natural hair, and so it just became an interest of mine. And then so when I did the big chop, I started looking at products because I was like, well, how do I do my natural hair to
Yeah.
get it to grow, and all that has to be something also natural, because that's what natural I was assuming. And so that kind of just took me down a rabbit hole of learning about ingredients. So I started out with natural hair care products. It went to bath and body care, skin care, toothpaste, organic foods, natural foods, all the whole thing. And so I just became kind of just obsessed with, is this natural? Is this organic? Is this safe? You know, and that's pretty much how it happened. I started making my own soap in 2013
Mhm.
because I just was, YouTube was like the best thing back then, like
So
YouTube
if we count
University,
your
right?
viewing hours, it's probably a high number
Right.
throughout the years.
And so I learned how to make my own natural soap. Back then, my goal was to get back to basics,
Okay.
to, discover what that meant. So a lot of natural things, a lot of gardening, a lot of handmade, a lot of DIY type things were like the things that I did at that time. And I never got into like cleaning products because there were cleaning products on the shelves, like Seventh Generation was the main one, Mrs. Myers, and
Okay.
all those products are pretty much greenwashed. But it took me, several years to understand that although they were claiming to be eco-friendly, they were not really, because they still contain sulfates and all these different fillers and things of that nature.
And we got to
So
get to that because I think we can't help but get a little lesson with Angela, maker of Pure Home. We have to get a lesson on greenwashing because I do think this is one of those awareness conversations that has to happen and people can decide for themselves where they stand. But there is
yeah,
not a lot of awareness to be honest. And this being on the inside is probably one of the key points of clarification you might sometimes have to
yeah,
make, or people come into the brand are thinking about and learning about greenwashing and saying, "Oh my gosh, I need something better." They don't know before they find you.
yeah. And
Yeah.
literally, people take the word of the brand when it says natural. Because I have this conversation all the
Yeah.
time. It says natural, and I'm like, a lot of businesses, whether it's food or cleaning or skincare, say natural. Natural is just a word that can be slapped, and with good marketing, you really don't even have to prove anything that you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, because it's one of those words that does not have a true definition.
Right.
Organic does, natural, all natural doesn't, right? So people can have something, there's always going to be some natural ingredient. Water is natural,
Yeah.
So what does it? It doesn't have a clear, defined definition that you can really measure against. So it's one of those words that you're going to see often. And depending on the consumer, they might elevate that to the
Yeah.
max
Yeah.
and think it's more than it is.
Right. 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 Truly.
Hmm. Yeah. So you come to a place, you're making soaps in 2013. Where does Pure Home come into this conversation and what are you doing at this time?
So 2013 to about 2014, 15, I had a small business doing skincare, bath and body products, of soaps and Castile soaps, body butters, all that stuff that,
Mhm.
we love.
Love.
And I think a year into it, I was like, no, there's something else that I really want to do. I'm concerned about everyday essentials. My dishwasher and my dishes and my surfaces and my laundry detergent. That defines to me. I was using those particular products, and some of the natural products would work, and some of them wouldn't. And some of them were super expensive. Some of them were not carried in stores that I could go to. Like I had to travel, to a Whole Foods, and then when I got there, it's just like, okay, I'm buying this one thing because that's basically all I could afford.
Mhm.
And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is really ridiculous. And me being a formulator, I just knew that I wanted to create a product line of everyday essentials.
Yeah.
And so I started learning about surfactant science. because I knew I didn't want to go a certain route because there's, the natural um, industry is either this pure soap, like Castile soap or something like that, and that's okay. But I wanted to take it a little step forward because
Mhm.
Castile soap does not is not antibacterial, antimicrobial, and things of that nature. So you still have to use a second product in order to achieve antibacterial and all that stuff.
Right.
And so I went into the surfactants. I started looking at the products that I was using and seeing, what the ingredients were. I didn't know what a surfactant was. I was
You had to
like,
become a
what is
little
this?
chemist.
And what is this? And how do I use this? And where do I get these ingredients from? And so I started purchasing surfactants in small quantities and researching and, formulating my own at my house. I did that for
Wow.
probably about 18 months,
Wow.
learning the chemistry, learning how effective it was, because the goal for Pure Home is not only to just be safe, but also to be effective.
Right.
Because one of my other goals is, as a Black woman raised by my Black grandmother and my
Mhm.
aunties, is
Mhm.
that I grew up on bleach, I grew up on Comet, I
Yes.
grew up on Tide. And so I was
Mhm.
like, if I'm going to have this product line, I want my grandmother and my aunties to be like, okay, this stuff works.
Yeah.
And so I may consider changing it because, people love tradition, and I may not, but I wanted it to stand up against any conventional cleaner on the shelf. And so that's pretty much why I chose the ingredients that I've chosen, and all of that, because I really think about my grandmother and my aunties, because they are the true litmus test
They are.
on, is this good or is this not good? I mean, and even to this day, they don't use my products, but they have used
What?
them, and
We have to get them on board.
it's never,
That's
you
how
know,
deep entrenched. We were talking about this before the podcast. How, like you, I grew up in the Bahamas in the Caribbean, and something is not clean until it has bleach in
yes,
our minds,
yeah,
right? I am now aware that this is not exactly the case, but there's some peace of mind with just bleaching every little thing. Like,
yeah.
and sometimes we probably use too much.
Oh,
um, so,
absolutely, and
like
that's
some of that habit change is something you're going to be up against as you continue to, you know, bring to people's consciousness that you can have clean, but you could also use clean ingredients to do it. You don't always need a chemical,
it's a true
a
stronghold.
hard chemical.
It's a true stronghold within certain communities,
Yeah.
and it's
Black, Hispanic, immigrant
yeah.
communities in general, really.
Yeah, I'm never gonna be able to convert bleach and Tide, and certain people, and I've come to accept that. But I also say, well, if you ever just want to use something that's more mild, um, Pure Home is here for you, because we don't have those strong chemicals and ingredients, but we still cut grease, we still clean surfaces effectively, we still do your laundry really well and remove stains and odors, and all of that. And it's just a mindset, and people have to want to, like, just anything, we have to want to change that mindset, and some people are just not going to ever do that, and I'm okay, and Pure Home is just not for them. As much as I would love to convert those people.
It's not over yet. You're still young as a brand. You officially mark your origins as 2017.
Yes.
Right. I mean, you're still young, and
Yeah.
those habits, they can come down, and they're going to just continue to see some of your marketing evolve, where you're showing the competitive nature of how it's whitening what it's supposed to whiten, it's cleaning what it's supposed to clean. So in your life cycle, some of that competitive testing, so that they can say, "Oh, okay,
Yeah.
this is great."
Oh yeah,
All
we've
of that
really,
will come.
yeah, we've really just begun, and once I think we get on the shelves, and that's the other component of it. If you're not in the grocery store where they can go pick it up, then you're not really that legitimate.
In
For
consumers,
that,
in some consumers' minds, I think millennials recognize that when folks are doing it differently, sometimes you have to do that differently on the on the digital shelf, right?
Yeah,
E-commerce, direct to consumer, they have a relationship with you, and you find the people that are buying today are your true people.
yeah,
In marketing, we have this like adopt this bell curve, this the adoption curve, and you have at the beginning these early adopters, and for you, it's probably people that first have a similar conviction as you to bring their products to natural, like some of the other products that they eat and use on their hair. This is bringing that same philosophy to now their cleaning products. So the early adopters are those who like really buy into that. And then the others come along over time as this becomes a little bit more mass, right?
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
totally. And I think we have an older generation that is actually starting to buy into Pure Home, and it's really great to have their testimonies because they won't come and do a review, but they'll slide into my DMs or send me an email.
Say it's working.
Yeah, I remember when I got a DM from one of our, I call her my OG customer because she's basically been with us from the beginning. And she was like, "Girl, your stuff. Like, I used to have, all these issues with itching and just,
Mm,
odor. And these were like name brand products that she was using. And she was like, I'm so glad that that does not, that doesn't even exist anymore for me. And she's like, I tell all of my family. And this lady is probably late 40s, early 50s,
mm.
and she's telling everybody about Pure Home. And so that makes me feel good when we have that age bracket versus those that are, that this it's natural to them to want to lean towards natural and organic things, but those that are not on that bent, they just want something that is safe and effective. They just want
Yeah.
something that's going to clean, and that's it. Period. They don't care about all that other stuff. If you say it's natural and organic, then they believe you,
Hmm.
and then they want to try it and see for themselves. So
Yeah.
those are the ones that when I convert them, it just blesses my heart so much.
What are some other transitionary periods that like make people consider using the brand? I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking maybe when someone is having a baby or if they have cancer and are really trying to reduce the toxins they're using, and cleaning
Mhm.
products is a key one. What are some of those that you've experienced with your client base, with your customer
Yeah,
base, sorry?
yeah, absolutely. Definitely, children, new
Mhm.
children, or younger children that they have used, conventional brand products, and they're like, it's too. I get too much of a headache. I can't clean around my kids, and so that becomes a frustration for them, and so they begin to look for something that will lessen that. Because people don't want headaches anymore when they clean. They don't want to have to spray and then run out.
Walk away, right?
And so that to me is what's happening, I
Yeah.
think. So those people that are sick of the fumes
Mhm.
when they clean, those ones that want to clean around their children so that their children feel safe in their household, those that want to clean around their pets,
Mhm.
because
It's a
people
big
love their
one.
pets just like their children,
Yeah.
and those that have terminal illnesses or just illnesses in general, like autoimmune, like you spoke about cancer,
Mhm.
things of that nature, are all those ones that have come to us and have seen the difference in the cleaning products and how they feel. Those that have skin issues like
Mhm.
dermatitis and psoriasis, and all of that topical things that happen on your skin,
Mhm.
asthma, people with asthma.
Okay.
So there's like a whole gamut of people that just are like, oh my gosh, what what can I get that will help?
Yeah,
Because I'm just
non-toxic.
cleaning. I don't feel like this. I just want to clean my house and be okay.
Yeah, I feel you. So you do all this product development. What do you start with when you first develop Pure Home? And in those during those years, did you know you were creating for a brand, or did you still think at the time that you were trying to like build the ultimate cleaning product for yourself?
I've actually been super intentional with Pure Home. I started Pure Home because I did not see a product on a shelf that fit what I was looking for.
Mhm.
Because I was in skincare, bath and body, and all of that for that year and a half. when I decided to create a new business, and a new product line, I just became really intentional on what it was that I wanted to do with that product line, and that mission from those like 5 years ago still leads us now. And so when I am developing a product, I always think about like, okay, what's on the shelf that is essential that I need that I don't have in my Pure Home product line.
Yeah.
It took me many years to develop our automatic dishwasher tabs. I just could not get it correctly. And then all of a sudden this year, something just clicked, and I was like, okay, I think I got it now. And
Mm.
it's one of those products that has been that breakout product that I never imagined, but
A
it's
lot of
just
people
one of.
doing dishes. A lot of people using the dishwasher.
Yeah, and
Yes.
so I basically, look at what's on the shelf. What
Mhm.
do I need in my home that needs to be replaced? What are my consumers saying that they want? How can I make it the most eco-friendly as possible,
Right.
but also
Effective.
effective at cleaning? And
Mhm.
so that is my mentality. Every product that I develop is like, okay, it's the whole thing. What do I see in my house that I need to replace? What
Yes.
are my consumers saying that they want? Like the
Uh-huh.
auto dish, because I actually I hand wash my dishes. I don't
Mm.
even use my
I
dishwasher.
grew up that way, and now that I have a dishwasher,
And see, I'm the
dishes don't
exact.
see my hands. They don't. And I used to wash dishes growing up. My sister and I would take turns, and my mom would. We actually had a dishwasher that was never actually
Hmm.
plugged in and all that. She was like, "Oh no, my children will always know how to wash dishes." I think it's like a chore thing in the Caribbean, like you have to
Hmm.
do chores.
I mean, I grew up the same way. My
Oh my
grandmother, oh
gosh,
my gosh, I washed so many dishes, and now if I have a dishwasher and I have
you still hand
dishwasher
wash?
tabs, and I still hand wash, and
Come on.
I hate doing the dishes, which is so crazy.
You know what? If you just for a week start to use that, you won't turn back.
I
My
know,
my
right?
mom still washes dishes. She will come visit from the Bahamas and hand wash. I'm like, you don't have to do that, right?
Hmm.
It's a
Yeah,
habit. It's a habit for you. It's a habit for her.
yeah, truly.
Did you first
Uh,
start off with your concentrates? What? Tell me the kind of the order of products. So what did you start with? As like, what did you launch with? What did you launch with back when you started?
so sure, the everyday essentials: laundry detergent, dish soap, surface cleaner.
You had a whole portfolio when you launched. You didn't
Yes,
just do one product at the start.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I the concentrate came in late 2018, because I um, I was I'm thinking like, I started getting into concentrates for some reason. It started being like everywhere, and I
So
was like, it
concentrates, you add some of the concentrate and a ratio of water based on the
yeah.
instructions. You put
Mhm.
it in that bottle and you're able to use it. But this is a sustainable way to do it. Have concentrates and not ship around water, right? So the
Yeah.
consumer will add the water to the concentrate and have
Yeah.
a fully effective, potent product.
Yeah, honestly, it is the ideal product for me, especially as we lead towards or lean towards sustainability.
Hmm.
We want to be able to not send water because
Hmm.
that's, one, it's heavy, with, all the different shipping companies. There's always some type of mistake or, damage or something like that. And then also, it's just more economical in the long run because our all-in-one concentrate is all of our products in one. So it's our laundry detergent, our dish soap, our surface cleaner, our bathroom cleaner, um, every single thing that you would need to use to clean your home from top to bottom is contained in that one 34-ounce container. And so it makes the most sense to me,
Hmm.
um, to go for, and I noticed that our zero waste or our more like extreme eco friendly people will go for that product versus all of the other ones because I guess they understand what the value of it is.
Yeah, I think one of the things about Pure Home that was really interesting to me is it's non-toxic, but also the zero waste piece that we mentioned. And that means your packaging also is recyclable and in some cases biodegradable. Talk to us about the choices you made there and what it took to do that.
Sure. Out the gate, I knew I wanted to be sustainable. Eco-friendly is a lifestyle for me. I'm not 100%, nobody is, but
Hmm.
it's truly the thing that I think about and stress over the most when it comes to, Pure Home and just in general, as a person, as a human on this earth. I respect Mother Earth so much, and I know that our plastic output is ridiculous because plastic doesn't go away, and plastic also can be harmful once it's broken down, and also toxic within itself. And so, especially for our laundry detergent, is biodegradable and recyclable. The
I
inner
love the packaging with looking like the cardboard that's compressed. That was such a smart idea.
Yeah, it's one of those things because people are always like, can you have a larger size? Because we have tons of families that buy our laundry detergent, and so they need a lot of laundry detergent to take care of their clothes and their family and all that. And it's one of those things where I grapple with, should I go with the plastic version or what should I do? And I'm still like holding out that it's going to be, like a PCR, a post-consumer plastic,
Hmm.
and still I can't find the sizing,
Right.
for all of that. So, I'm actually looking at some other alternatives like a bag and a box similar to what we have
Yeah, yeah,
in our laundry detergent, but as a bigger size
that
for the
might work.
families.
Yeah, you basically can't grapple with this. This is a core tenet of your brand. So you're grappling because the consumers are asking, and you're thinking that would get you quick to market, but you're probably not actually grappling because it's such a core tenet of your brand to be
It
eco-friendly,
is.
biodegradable, zero waste. So they'll have to wait a little bit longer for you
Yeah,
to
and that's why
unlock
we
it.
introduced our laundry pods, um, because although they are not plastic free, you just can't have a plastic free laundry pod.
Right.
We've looked into it, we've done the research, and it's just not something that can be done. But with the laundry pods, you don't have all of the packaging and
Hmm.
all the things that are unnecessary if that's your thing that you want to do for yourself and your family.
Right.
But it's as a small business, we do what we can. We're self funded. We don't have an investor, and so we have to create all of these products and ideation on our own, and help get that to market. So it's one
Yeah.
of those like slow burns that we just are like constant. Well, I'm constantly thinking.
Hmm. Talk to me about your iteration, your process of iteration, like the packaging we see behind you. And for those that are listening to the audio podcast, if you follow Pure Home, Shop Pure Home at Shop Pure Home on Instagram, you'll be able to see the beautiful packaging. Was this what version of packaging was this in terms of numbers of package designs that you've had since you
This
launched in 2017?
Oh my gosh, this is probably 3 or 4.
Hmm.
And this was more so a forced um it was kind of forced on us with the
Yeah.
pandemic. We had a certain other look that was super branded and really I want to say kind of high class look, um but somehow in the pandemic our manufacturer of those containers could no longer get them,
Okay.
and so they discontinued them, like, and
Mhm.
so we're like,
Oh,
"Wait."
what are we supposed to do?
So I had to really think, what to do, and, actually through the pandemic, the all-in-one concentrate became a huger thing because at one time we could not even get a hold of our, laundry detergent, container
Mm,
manufacturer, and so people were like, "We need laundry detergent," and I'm like, "I need to get you guys laundry detergent," and I'm like, "Let me give you this all-in-one concentrate or a concentrated laundry detergent," at the time that was in glass.
okay.
So yeah, so this is like 3 or 4. I'm not really sure because we had some kind of sketchy during 2020 where we were just like trying to buy bottles, as many
Whatever
bottles as
you
we
can
get.
get.
Like 2020, like I'm now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like 2020 was like a hot mess when it came to like packaging and
In general.
just in
In
well, yeah,
general, including packaging. Yes, there was a shortage for most people,
yeah.
which is odd because I'm guessing you probably experienced a lot of demand, probably more than you expected in 2020. Just cleaning, antibacterial, we were in our homes more. This is your territory. What was your experience in 2020, and how did you and your team sort of shift to be able to meet that demand, and how has that changed your trajectory versus what you had planned for where you would be right now?
Yeah, 2020 was really our breakout year. We were before people, first with the pandemic. We had a lot of media as, people started talking about disinfectant sprays and cleaners because people couldn't go to the grocery store and pick those items up, or they were not finding them on the shelves. And
Mm.
so people were going online to see what was available. We were starting to get featured in a lot of like media outlets, like well, anyways, just a few media outlets that
Mhm.
were popular with the millennials and families, and do social
Think
media.
Pop Sugar and some of the others I remember.
Yeah, Pop
Forbes featured
Sugar.
you as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Refinery 29.
actually all of that started happening with the Black Lives Matter and the death of George Floyd and
Yeah.
Breonna Taylor. And so that really broke us out even more,
Mhm.
honestly, into a lot of chaos. Because then we were featured on, I think, what was it? Marie Claire
Mhm.
was the first. Actually, it started with a tweet
Mm.
on a Friday, like the last Friday in May of 2020.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden, we just start getting featured in everything. Marie Claire was the first on that Monday, then Architecture Digest, and then Juneteenth, we were featured on the Black Parade with Beyonce,
Yeah, her
and
Be
just
Good Impact Fund.
we got the Be Good Impact Fund, and that like it was like October or so. And it was just we went viral for like 6 months in
Wow.
2020. I mean, it was
So,
so
what was that
massive.
like for you as a founder? Were you just like not sleeping at all because your team is small, right?
Yeah, I slept not actually, and at the time I was not even in my warehouse. I was in my we have this shed that I had renovated
Mhm.
into a workspace.
Yeah.
Like we had just literally moved in. Let me see, March of 2020. The pandemic hit, and then all hell broke loose. And then I had to find a warehouse. We were looking for a warehouse anyway because with the pandemic we were just growing, growing, growing. So I was like, okay, now it's time to like look for a warehouse. And then like after May, June, it was a wrap. We were just like, I had to find a warehouse
Yeah.
and I had to really build my team bigger. And so it's been interesting. We've been featured on so many things. Like
Yeah. That I love that part of it, just growing really fast. Talk to me about your manufacturing growth. So you were making in your home shed, then you guys recently got the 25 square foot warehouse. We know why you were growing, so you needed more space to put everything. What did you create in that 25 square foot warehouse space that you didn't have in your shed?
yeah, so with the warehouse, it allowed us to get machinery
Hmm.
to be able to make, because we are in-house manufacturing. We have this more space, to be able to manufacture all of our products. We produce thousands of products in a month, and I would never be able to do that in my home
Yeah,
shed
and store it.
and
Store the
store it.
ingredients and the finished good.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
so yeah, it's allowed us to just be a viable business in the community, to hire in the community. I live in a small town, about 45 minutes outside of Las Vegas. And so I was able to bring jobs to a community that had nothing but, small casinos and fast food and not a lot of, other positions unless you
Yeah.
had specialized skills and degrees and, things like that. And generally in a small little city, not everybody has that. And so they
Mhm.
have to go for the jobs that they have. We only have one Walmart. We don't have a Target. We don't, it's really tiny.
Yeah, yeah,
And so, so to be able to bring jobs to the community and hire locally was, a great feeling, and a great accomplishment.
yeah.
But yeah, so it allowed us to do a lot, and it's still steady, for 2021. Thank goodness. We're still, maintaining our pace. Um, you know, and so we just want to continue. We're actually, looking to buy bigger machinery, and then we probably will end up moving to Las Vegas for
Okay.
a bigger warehouse and capability and stuff like that. So.
I love hearing about the growth that's trending for you, and I definitely feel like this isn't going away. This is a category that once you have that awareness and you have that captive audience that cares, it finds it great. The more you're able to outfit their home with the right cleaning products, which you're doing, your portfolio really does cover the essentials, you're really in a sweet spot. And those ambassadors of your brand, which there are many of them that I found online, whether on YouTube or, on your Instagram channel, who are saying how much they love different ingredients. I'm like, based on what I've read, I need to try the whitener
Oh,
based on what I read because people are nuts about the whitener.
listen,
How did
that
you develop
whitener is
that
no
one?
joke. So I developed that because, I wanted a stain remover, um, and I could never get the liquid down. You have the spray stain removers, and I was like, this is just not working. Something in my formulation. Look, I'm a realist. I talk to myself and I say, this ain't it. So, what is the alternative so
Right.
that it can be it? And so, I started looking at what's on the market. I always go back to the market and see what's there. And you have your OxyClean and other companies, and I was like, well, how can we do it, non-toxic? I'm not certain what's an OxyClean, but there's one particular product that we have that's similar, and so it's a hydrogen-based, non-chlorine bleach product, and it just came to me. It was just I tested it for a really long time,
Mhm.
and once I tested, and because I'm very critical of my products, if it's not it, I'm gonna say it's not it, and I'm not gonna release it. I
Yeah.
have stuff that's sitting, like I said, the auto tab sat for years and it was not released until I could perfect it to the point where I was like, okay, this is a good product. And so I, released it, and it's like one of those other things, like I talked about the auto tabs, the oxygen whitener, because it's so versatile.
Yes.
And it does upholstery, it does stains, it just does every single thing that people need, and it's just it's an amazing product, and that's my favorite thing to convert people. Is like, if y'all want something non-toxic that is really gonna, do well. And I've actually converted some of my old heads in my family. And I'm
Yes.
like, okay, y'all, I
They
know this
love
is a
the
good product if
whitener.
y'all coming over.
Yeah. I think that's also cool that you're still, you are still the main product developer in your company. Yeah.
Yeah. I love formulation. I love product development. It's one of those mind things because I'm an introvert and I'm super mental, and so I want to think about stuff, prior to doing it. So like I'll think, for like a long time before I actually get in there and formulate it. Cause I'm like, okay,
Mm.
what type of
So do you
ingredient?
formulate on paper and then you sort of say, okay, now I'll play with it. Then you do a bunch of iterations and sort of tweak on paper and in real life. Is that sort of like your process?
So my first thing is always going to, my, ingredient,
Hmm.
vendors,
Okay.
and really actually looking at what's on the market first.
Hmm.
How can I make this non-toxic? And so I'm looking like at various, products, tons and tons of, some of the similar products, how can I make this similar or the same but non-toxic? And so I'm looking at it, and then I'm looking at, ingredients, like ingredient vendors, and saying, okay, this is this, and this is what it does. And
Mhm.
so I'm, milling in my head, what would make, you know, how does this fit into what a pure home product is?
Right.
And then I start getting, certain ingredients and, writing down. I always do paper.
Mhm.
I'm a pen and paper person. And then I start, doing my various. Sometimes I just have one formulation, and that's what it is. Sometimes I might go through a few of them as I'm testing. But a lot of the products are just, a one-time formulation for me. And I'm not. I'm super blessed because I don't have formal training
Right.
in chemistry or anything like that. It's just like I see something, and then I do the extensive research, and then I just come up with something, and then I have everybody in my household test it. The people get sick of me. They're like, "Please don't bring no other products." In the beginning of formulation, they're just
Right.
like, and I'm like, "Can you try this again?" And they're just like, "Okay." And I'm like, "Well, what?
What
How
you
was
think?
it?" I
Right.
know, like, how was it? Oh, you
Feedback.
were so and I have tough critics. I have my business partner has been in the cleaning industry for 20 years,
Okay.
and so
That's Michelle?
she's
Okay.
super tough on it. She's super tough because she's dealt with cleaning with industrial strength,
Uh,
and it's a different thing. So if I can impress her, then
yes.
it's impressive. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I actually noticed that you have a business partner, and I was curious if you could talk a little bit about partnership because in entrepreneurship, um, we do find a lot of, particularly Black entrepreneurs, have to be solo or end up being solo, but you have someone who has complementary skills. Talk about how you guys found each other and the discussion around using our skills to build this business and I think finding your lane when you're in a partnership, whether it's two people, three or so, you have to sort of find your and define your lanes so that you're complementing the whole business versus complicating it. And then we hear, oh, I hate working with people because, but clearly in business, relationships are important. So talk to us about your um, business partnership and how you're able to use complementary skills within your team to make this happen.
Yeah, so me and Michelle are actually super opposite of each other in our way of like thinking and doing, and so that works really well because sometimes you want people that are the same, but sometimes you want people that she's super I guess street smart and very like that way, where I'm more like book knowledge. Like I always go back to the science journals and I always look at what the science says. And I'm always like, trying to analytically look at things and research stuff like that. She's just like, okay, just give me the product and let me test it out and see if it works. And then give you my thoughts on it that way. So I'm the formulator, but she's the one that will just tell me exactly how it is. If it's good, it's good. If it's not, it's not. And so we really need people that, complement you, have the strengths maybe where you're weak at, and not necessarily that it's a weak thing, but it's just something that you're not skilled in, and
Yeah.
that's okay because not everybody's is skilled in everything. We just are not like that.
Hmm.
And so she is like the yin and the yang. We're like yin and yang, and it just works really well.
Yeah.
Because there's times when I'm like, okay, I want to do this and I want to do. She's like, no, we're not doing any of
Because you're the big idea person,
that.
So talk to me about your first or second hires. You guys you came up with the idea, well, the formulation. Michelle came and supported and backed it.
Yeah.
Um, who else is on the team that's helping to bring this to life?
So we have right now we basically just have our warehouse staff. I did have an administrative assistant and a warehouse manager. they have since moved on, benefits and all of that stuff. So
Yeah, real
yeah,
stuff for a small business. Those are things that are sometimes a challenge to have right away.
yeah. And so I mean, eventually that will come. But so yeah, it was super important for me to have an administrative assistant, because
Mhm,
there's a lot of like office things that I just don't have time to do.
mhm.
And then a warehouse manager to manage our warehouse staff, maintain inventory, purchasing, just things that have to do with getting our orders out into the customer.
Mhm.
Um, and then, of course, our warehouse staff, which packages our orders. And we also have some makers that come, that I've taught my formulation to. So
Okay.
if I'm not here, or I actually have one that does all of our powder products, and so
Mm.
he, does the oxygen whitener and the laundry powder, and all of that. So we do have some that actually are part of the production team. So yeah, but I think
And you hired all of these people.
I did.
That's exciting. How did you feel having to bring people on? Was that something you already had experience in, or that's something you sort of had to trial by fire learn to do and do it for your business? Because I'm just thinking, you're thinking, I want the best people for these roles, and I want to make sure that I don't have to kind of keep rinsing and repeating on folks so that I
Yeah,
can, have a streamlined business. What was that process like for you? And some
yeah.
learnings that you
It,
have from that process?
yeah, it is tough, hiring, especially for a small business, because you're only able to do so much, especially starting out, with no benefits, and so people are looking at that as everything opens up again. But I've had supervisory experience in my corporate life as a
Mhm.
financial aid analyst, and so supervising, was never the issue. I think learning people's skills, like I love to watch people and see what you know um, because people talk. I feel like I can do this, and I always encourage my staff. If you feel like you're good, because I have one that's good at with like marketing and design, and so in between the time, like she'll like design certain things on certain days so that she's just not in production or packing boxes or something like that, and it kind of breaks
Mhm.
up her monotony.
Yeah.
And so identifying, even if you have people in some of the basic roles in the beginning, as you're getting used to them or they're getting used to your business, really taking a look at what those skills are by talking to them, by watching them, seeing how they are around everybody, and then, putting them in different positions, because in the beginning, I didn't know, what I needed.
Right.
I just was like, I need to hire people because we have a ton of orders and I need to get those, made and packed and shipped. And so, yeah, so I basically have had to do, like, just pull out skills that maybe they didn't even know,
Mhm.
or that I didn't even know that I needed when I hired them.
Right, because they
And
might have to
so,
do they have to kind of cross functions within the
yeah,
business. As a small business, you have to know more than one thing and
yeah.
be willing to pitch in if we need more people here or there.
Yeah, and I'm so lucky to actually have people. All of them are like, let me do this, or let me help you with this, and then they love to just do a lot of different things and not stay at that one role. Even though I
Yeah.
might have hired them just to pack boxes in the beginning, they're just like, oh, actually I think I can design something for you. I can do some social media stuff, or I can do some
Okay.
TikTok stuff, and I
You
have.
you actually have been showing up more, which is funny to me because I remember when I first discovered this brand, you were very shy and I like barely saw you and something changed. And I'm trying to put my finger on exactly when, but you totally have been showing up. And I think representation is so important. It is about an effective product, but it's also about who you're getting it from. I like to think about people buy from real people.
Yeah.
Brand, because brand is important, and a part of this brand is your story and you being the center of it in some ways. you are an introverted person, but you have been
Yes.
showing up a lot more, and it excites me so much. I just saw you on a TikTok video showing people how to use the product, and I think
Mhm.
that's awesome. What has been going on personally for you as you shift into this role of being a more present CEO that's sort of like in the front more versus being the formulator that's behind the bench doing it all, but now people are seeing you and able to talk to you like we are today? What has been
Yeah.
happening personally for you?
So I really think the whole 2020 thing, we got a lot of media, and so people, wanted to interview me and talk about just entrepreneurship. Um, so that I became a thought leader in my industry.
Yes.
So they're like, okay, we want to talk to you about entrepreneurship. We want to talk to you about sustainability, greenwashing, the whole thing that I'm all about. And so me as a person had to basically just show up, when I never wanted to be, the face of, PUR Home. But someone told me probably about 6 or 8 months ago that I really enjoy when you actually show us yourself because you come off very genuine and
Definitely.
real, and that's what I connect with you. And this was an angel investor, and
Mhm.
so I was like, I had never heard that. And then another fellow entrepreneur, she's like, she sold her business for like $100 million to Unilever a
Mhm.
couple of years ago. And she was
Yeah.
like, we need to see you. We need to, get to know you because people buy, they buy the product, but they buy you. They
Mhm.
want to know you and they want to know your story. And, I'm
Especially early
starting.
adopters, right? Like down the line, we might never know Angela made this product, but
Yeah.
today that is somewhat central.
Yeah, and it is. And I started looking at some of my other famous, popular brands that I actually use myself, especially with natural hair,
Yeah.
Alakay Naturals and Mael Organics,
Yes.
how they're still very much at the forefront of their companies and they engage with their customers. And so, I'm like, that's the reason why I buy from these companies is because I feel like I know them.
Yeah,
you
and
know,
I think
I
the piece of that representation is, we're starting to really identify with these founders, well, whether we're aspiring to be like one of them or there's a part of their lifestyle that we feel like, man, that reminds me of myself. I love what they are doing. Right?
yeah.
So that representation piece and the identity piece is very important. Starting to be more open about, talking about life as a black woman entrepreneur or not being shy to say my business is
Yeah.
black owned. These are things that you can be proud of. I actually think I also saw recently that you were featured in I Fund Women's Queer Businesses, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're really starting to like show all the dimensions of you. Talk to us
Yeah.
about your I Fund Women campaign experience as a part of their Queer Women's Feature program.
Yeah, so I love iFund Women. In particular, they have iFund Women of Color with Olivia,
Yeah.
and so I've been a part of iFund Women really since the beginning of iFund
Mm,
Women of Color, which
okay.
started back in I guess January of 2020,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so they basically know me. They're just like, they're super supportive. And they were like, we want us, feature in our queer, month of June. And I would never have done that. And I was like,
You would literally say no in the past. You'd be like, no.
yeah, no. I'm like, what are you talking about? No.
Right. But people do know, your family and your colleagues know, you just would never put yourself in front street. That would not usually be something you'd be proud of, or you'd be nervous of it, and for right reasons. I understand a lot has
Yeah.
evolved in the
You,
industry.
everybody has an opinion about others. And
Yeah.
so they make that opinion so well known. And some people will stop dealing with you just because of your sexual orientation or the color of your skin or your religion or things of
Mhm.
that. And I never wanted that to be a barrier for us
Right.
because I wanted our product to speak for itself, up front. And so now 4 years in, it's like, yeah, it is what it is. I'm never gonna change my sexual orientation for anyone, and you know, it is what it is. I've actually had people email me and say, I did not know, and I'm so glad. Thank you for sharing your story on that, and
Yeah.
just being open to do that. And still, at the same time, I'm just like, it's still one of those things because we face discrimination,
Yeah.
just as individuals, not as a business owner quite yet, but just as individuals. So I try to read the room, so to speak,
Hmm.
and make sure that I'm in a safe space always.
Yes, always.
So that's the most important.
Yeah. So was that your first kind of public business experience showing that you are a queer founder and being able to talk more about your experience in business? Was that your first time the I Fund Women campaign,
It was,
the
yes.
feature?
Yes, it
Wow.
was.
What
Yeah.
was your response from that, or what was your experience and the um, the response that came after it, the feedback?
Um, I got a few DMs that were like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know." I'm just so happy that you came out, or I'm so glad that I know you. I love you even more, and
Hmm.
so it was the few people that reached out, they just were just happy,
Yeah.
that I did come out in a sense, and
Mhm.
share myself in that
Yeah.
way. So yeah, I
Did
think
it
more.
liberate anything within you personally now being able to like just feel even more genuine or feel even more just like transparent about, being able to say I am a queer business. It may not matter to most people, but just sometimes being able to be fully yourself allows you to even unlock other levels of creativity, innovation, connection. It seems like connection was one of the outcomes of that as well. What was your personal experience with doing that scary thing of saying, okay, I'm going to share it on a business level, not just a personal level?
You know, I'm not sure. That's such a great question. I think that if I can come out on my own personal page
Yeah.
with my own personal experience with our consumers and our tribe, then I think it would be a lot more liberating. I
Okay.
haven't gotten to that point yet.
Mhm.
Even though I posted it on our Instagram as well. But first, I'm considering next year,
Okay.
and thinking like, okay, I'm already out, and it's not a secret that I would ever keep. So if you ask me, this is my partner, this is who I am.
Mhm.
So to actually, I just never actually ever thought that it was a thing. Just like being a black owned business was never like our goal until like 2020, where it was just like, oh yeah, and by the way, we're black owned as well.
You just were.
And it's so crazy because all of our social media has always been black.
Yeah.
Everything has always been black. We've only we feature multicultural images, but predominantly black, and we
Yeah.
always talk about
Love that.
yeah. So it was not nothing. It wasn't nothing or anything that I ever hid as being a black owned business, but it was not ever like, hey, and by the way, buy from us because we're black owned. It was, hey, buy from us because we're safe and
We're
effective
awesome.
in our
We're
product. Yeah.
non-toxic. Yeah, we're
We're
eco-friendly.
yeah, my vein has always been sustainability and
Yeah.
eco-friendly. And so to actually step into, being black owned as well, and then also being queer as
Queer.
well.
Yes.
It's like
Yeah.
so many things. And I'm just like, wait, when and so yeah, so I'm really just trying to encompass it all now and
Yeah.
just say, yeah, we're all of these things. But
Mhm.
remember, we're sustainability and eco-friendly first.
First, yeah. Does your spouse work in the business as well, or do you all completely work in fully separate worlds? What is that like?
So, okay, so honestly, Michelle is actually my spouse.
Oh, okay. Michelle is your spouse. There we go. So y'all work in the same business. It was just your bright idea, and she's like, "All right,
Yes.
cool, I'll do it." That's
Yeah.
cool. But she also she works in a separate industry too. So she's a
Yeah.
co-founder, but also has her own life and well her
Yeah.
own work
Yeah.
as
And
well.
we're working on bringing her on full time. So I'm
Okay.
hoping next year. I'm really
I
working
feel about
hard for
working with
that.
your spouse. I know people do it.
Actually,
People do it.
we work really good together.
Yeah.
We are, as long as we're not fighting, which we don't that often, but we
Yeah.
do work really well together. She actually pushes me on a level that I don't have with anyone else.
Mm.
Um, and so I can't wait for her to come because although I'm at 100% now. When she's with me, it'd be like so much better. So
Yeah.
I
Iron
mean,
sharpens iron, you know.
yeah,
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 you guys will
definitely.
get sharper there. That is so cool. That is awesome. And I hope she's able. When are you guys projecting that Michelle would be able to come full time so that you have both of your co-founders um in the business full time? What are you thinking would be maybe that ideal time frame when that's
I'm
possible?
hoping either the end of this year or the very beginning of 2020.
Mhm.
We're just really banking on, because we're also restructuring Pure Home in a sense because although we are mostly direct to consumer, we have tons of people that want our products in their stores,
Yes.
whether smaller like wholesale and stuff. And so I realized that in order for us to do that, we have to kind of like streamline some stuff. So what the goal is to put our products out more on Amazon FBA,
Yeah.
as well as we have a new partnership with a company that's launching in September that is Black owned. So we'll have Amazon and we'll also have them
Mhm.
in their fulfillment center that
Mhm.
will have Pure Home products exclusively along with whatever else they have, so that we can actually scale up our manufacturing, so that we can increase our inventory, for retail to get on shelves, also to do all of the wholesale requests that we get on a monthly, basis. Right now,
Mhm.
we can't do, online consumer and wholesale. It's just impossible. And, I just been looking at, companies like a Tide and a Seventh Generation, and Ecos, and, all those companies. And I'm like, you can't go online and get their products. You actually have to go and get
In
their
stores.
products on the shelves.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
so
shipping costs is probably crazy for them because yours is a concentrate, so it's a little lighter, but a lot of you ever try to buy all family size online? That thing will be heavy. It's heavy in the store, you know?
Well, yeah, well, we sell our laundry detergent and our dish soaps and all that stuff online, and so it does shipping. Also, that's I think one of the almost killers of a small business could be shipping.
Yeah.
And so with Amazon, it's like, okay, they'll be able to get it, with the FBA because we'll be shipping our products there.
Yeah.
And then with the other company, we'll be shipping it to their fulfillment center. So it
Mhm.
basically takes it out of our hands, and the consumers will just be able to get their products a lot faster. And, there's no worries about that. And then we can really focus on like really scaling our business in a bigger way. Direct to consumer, although we love it, it's just not, it's very hard for
It's
our
hard.
type of product to scale
Mhm.
on the level that we need to scale to, unless we have an investor, and we don't have investors right now.
Is that something you're
Um,
open to or interested in? Do you think now is the right time? What are your thoughts on that?
I grapple with that. I'm super intentional, and I've had investor calls, and I'm just like, I just don't feel like I want us to maintain its exclusivity for as long as we can. As a Black woman-owned business,
Yeah.
we don't have that. And once we have an investor that comes in, then that autonomy kind of, goes away in a sense. It's
Yeah.
easier if
I
we
mean,
have, yeah, so it's easier if we have an investor, and we will potentially do that. Um it's just one of those things. It has to be the right investor with
yeah,
the
I
right
can hear
mission.
you grappling with it. It's one of those big major decisions any entrepreneur has to make when they get to that point. I do know from talking to others in your same seat who had similar hesitations for all the right reasons. It's definitely about finding the right one who aligns with your vision. It's definitely about you holding on to some of the requests you have, like if you want if you want your business to stay majority Black owned and you have a threshold in mind that will make you feel really comfortable, things like that, and the investor aligning to the philosophy you have around supporting the growth of the business. The other thing an entrepreneur said before, or actually this one was Dennis Richelieu,
Mhm.
Richelieu Dennis of Shea
Mhm.
Moisture.
Oh,
I
mhm.
went to one of his talks and he talked about, never um, create a business to sell, always create a business to scale. And
Yeah.
scaling, at the end of scaling, could be selling. But when you literally only thinking of it for sale, that's not what you're doing. You're doing the complete opposite. You
Yeah.
want to retain. You're thinking, I want this to be something I could potentially continue to build and have. So you already have that mindset. But he even thinks, any entrepreneur, they should think about building a business to scale, because you build it differently when you think of scaling it than when you think of just making it attractive for somebody else. So I totally think you're on the right track with thinking about it. It makes sense that you're grappling. It's a big
Mhm.
decision in your business. But I know, just like with every other thing, you will analyze it. You will get the right people to help mentor you in the process. This is one of those areas where you don't have to do it alone, the funding
Yeah.
process. And it's one of the ones that are, least transparent for most of us, because like you don't do it until you do it.
Yeah.
So I know you will find the right mentors who will help you make the right decision there.
Yeah. I really love what Curl Mix did.
Oh, I love
Um,
that. Yes.
and if I would ever
Him and Tim
do,
Lewis.
yeah,
Hmm.
that was such an amazing to
Yeah.
watch.
And they
And
over
so,
delivered. The
and yeah,
community showed up. They over delivered on their goals. And what for the Boss Fam, Angela is talking about, they had their community
hmm
invest in them.
hmm yeah.
Yeah,
So that's one thing that is
you're
really
interested
on
in
the
that.
in the back of my head when I think whether
Mm.
I want an investor or do I want the community to invest. Because as I saw that, I mean, I watched it because I got the emails.
Yeah,
And I watched the whole thing, develop, and it was the most amazing thing that I
it was
have ever
phenomenal.
seen.
Yeah,
And so, there's so many options. There's such a big pull on small businesses and in business in general to have an investor. Like that's the big talk nowadays is you have to have an investor, invest, 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 and it's like you know at what level of investment, because then you get people in that are basically your boss. They come in, wanting board seats and all these things. I'm like, to me, I just feel like Pure Home, because of the industry that I'm in. If I was in any other industry, it would be so much easier. But because of the industry I'm in, and there are not a lot of minorities in this industry, it's one of those things I feel very strongly to try to maintain Pure Home as much as I can and to try to take it as far as I can so that there is a legacy for Pure Home on the market for as long as the Tide has been
yeah,
around for 100 years or
hundreds.
so.
Yeah,
Excuse me. And so how come Pure Home cannot do the same?
yeah,
I mean, that looks different in so many things because it's run by a board and all of that. But at the same time, if we structure it correctly and we build it the way that it needs to be built to be able to be like that, then Pure Home can be around for 100 years and still be maybe majority Black owned or at least Black
absolutely.
run or
Yeah,
something, of that nature. And so that's just really the goal. I never, like, when I started Pure Home, I didn't think it would be what it is. I literally just started it because I wanted a product that I could use in my house that was safe and effective and eco-friendly. And so, 4 years later, it's like, okay, people are telling me, sending me emails that it's needed. Thank you very much for, putting this out for the community. And, all these things, Black people, white people, just so
yeah,
much encouragement. And then I feel like if I just, build it to sell, then that's selfish in a way. It's
mm,
selfish for me to just say this is just it's just for me at that point. And Pure Home has never just been for me. It's been for me because it's a product that I needed. but also for the community and people that just wanted eco-friendly cleaners. You
Yeah.
know, not to be sold a product that lies, that has great, marketing,
Hmm.
that is sulfate based. You know, none of that. We
Yeah.
really
You
want
want a
to just
brand people can trust. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think, we will have to talk to you as you evolve and see how this journey goes, because it's certainly a journey to determine like what are those next type steps. There was one question I want to have talk to you about before we go into your next frontier. But I know at the beginning I read an article, like Medium article, where you mentioned one of your biggest lessons was around like third party vendors versus direct suppliers. And I think this is something that the Bosque fam, the Black on Shelf community, probably deals with right now. When you're developing a product or selling it on a smaller level, you're buying from third party vendors a lot of times. And as you scale and try to make the product more affordable, but also create more profit for yourself, might have to start dealing with direct suppliers. Talk to me about your experience with the two.
Yeah, sure. So, probably for the first 2 years, I
Hmm.
went through third party, sellers, resellers basically. And it was expensive. And then I was like, well, where are they getting their products from?
Right.
Where are they getting their ingredients from? Who are their vendors? Because they just have their company that sells ingredients. And so I started researching again and found, well, one vendor I actually had from the beginning because they're the only ones that make that ingredient. And that ingredient is in the laundry detergent and the all-in-one concentrate. And so there's nowhere else that I could get that. So, but for some reason, it never connected to see what other ingredients that so I'm
Right.
using all I'm using all this, stuff from my third party vendor, thinking I just can't afford anything. So then one day I was like, I'm just gonna, talk to my sales rep and see, do they have this ingredient? Do they have, and what's the cost? What's the MOQ? All of that. How can I
Minimum
get?
order quantity, for those who don't know, MOQ, minimum order quantity. This is
Yeah,
your
sorry.
world, right?
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good.
And so then he basically just sent me an email with all the prices, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is either less than what I'm purchasing from the third party, or it's the same, but I'm getting more."
Hmm.
And so it was one of those. It's all about managing your money and making sure you can do what you need to do, because otherwise you get caught in that trap of third party vendors, not realizing that you're spending a ton of money. I mean, I literally for years, and the supply chain is one of the most trickiest parts to a business, especially if you are creating a product on your own. If you're
Hmm.
outsourcing, manufacturing, then it's not an issue because generally those manufacturers buy those ingredients and those parts in bulk anyway.
Hmm.
But if you're a small business, that's the biggest trap, is going through third party, and people don't even realize that they have been trapped until later on when they're trying to scale and they're like, well, how can I get a whole bunch of this stuff? And then they have to start looking, who can they go through and cut the middleman out, because it doesn't make any more sense. And you can't increase your prices because, you're, especially for me, we're already at a premium price. And so for me, it just, for me, it makes sense to go to that
Yeah.
direct supplier and get all of the ingredients from them versus a third party vendor. I always lose out if I have to do that.
Yeah. So, Boss Fam, look for your direct suppliers
Yes.
of your ingredients and see if you can cut costs in some of those ways and drive more profit out of that product, or be able to reduce the price if that's your goal. That's a good learning. We also wanted to talk about greenwashing,
Mhm.
because we have to learn from you before we leave this podcast. Talk to us about greenwashing and some of the things you've learned along the way. What is that?
Oh, oh my gosh, that's the arch nemesis of natural and eco-friendly products, regardless of the industry or the
Mhm.
product. A lot of companies greenwash. Natural, like you said, is a coined token word. that means absolutely nothing and everything at the same time,
Yeah.
and so greenwashing is when a company says they're all natural, but they also include, and I always go back to science. Um, you know, um, there are certain science journals that define what natural is and what it isn't. They also list what ingredients are natural and what they are not. And so basically, companies can just say what they want to say and not back up anything. And consumers and people don't know because they're just like, oh, well, they say it's natural. I've had people say that so many on different products. I won't name companies because I probably already have, but basically, I'm going to say 75% of the products out there that say natural are not natural. And I only base that off of their ingredient profile and science. And so you really have to know the science. Some I'm just going to say you have to do your own research, and then you have to make that decision for yourself. But the Environmental Working Group website, so the EWG.org, is really good. They have a list of all of, like, almost all the ingredients that products use, whether they're food, or skincare, cosmetics, cleaning. They list every single product, and then they rate it A through F or 1 through 5, and it'll basically tell you the scale, and then it also give you the description of, um, I guess, what can potentially happen. Whether it's topical or if it's ingested or something of that nature to kind of help you understand what that ingredient is all about. But yeah, greenwashing is it's an epidemic in the United States, and they only get away with it in the United States because you go to other countries and they wouldn't even dare to say something is natural when it's not natural because the laws and the standards are so different, and the
Mhm.
standards and laws here. We have lobbyists, and they are the ones that go to bat for these companies because there's an invested interest for products. There's ingredients that have been around um, for a long time, and they have been around because they are cheaper. We went through the industrial age, and all of that, everything went cheap with the plastic. We went from
Right.
glass to plastic. We went from sturdy cars to junk cars, and so many things that are just harmful in the environment. You basically have wrecked the environment based on all these chemicals. And the thing is, you look at the ingredients because, how does it affect our aquatic life? Once it's, washed down your washer and into the sewer system and potentially into the ocean, you know, food, how does that affect you? Is it genetically modified? So there's so many things that come with greenwashing, and it's really just research and kind of just finding out for yourself. But there
Yeah.
are lists that will tell you, what's good and what's bad. And I can't even imagine saying them, but I want people just to research,
Yes, I
research
think
it.
that's a great suggestion to raise your consciousness and to I think if we've learned anything about the past few years, it's about being the one to say, I'm going to educate myself on a topic that I'm interested in, but not as aware. Go
Mhm.
find the experts. Angela gave us a great resource there with the environmental working group as a start, and there
Yeah.
are other resources as well. But that's a good point. Educate yourself and see where you stand on the issue. Are you intense? Are you new to it? Right?
Yeah.
There's different levels to graduate within that spectrum.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think what I tell people when they first start out is, just do bit by bit. Don't overwhelm yourself because then it becomes overwhelming and you don't want to do it.
yeah.
Just take one thing. I started with hair and went the whole gamut of a lifestyle change. Make sure just like becoming vegan or any lifestyle change, you have to do it a little bit out of a time. Otherwise, there's no lasting effect. What do they say? It takes 6 weeks to form a habit.
Right.
And so, if you just stay consistent, just do one thing and be consistent, and then move on
Yep.
to your next thing.
Maybe Angela will write us a book on the pure life, and you'll see her English dreams of publishing come into life.
I actually do want to write a book.
We gotta stay tuned on that. We're gonna stay tuned on that. So you told us a little bit about the next frontier. What are some other things that you think is the next frontier for Pure Home? Maybe the next year and to 5 or so. Just some of the sneak peeks that you're able to share. No proprietary stuff, of course.
Sure. More sustainability in our packaging. That's really been the heaviest thing on my mind. Just because we ship out so much plastic, and it does hurt my soul. Plastic, our plastic output just really it hurts my soul and so that's why I rely very heavily on the concentrated products, and we will be releasing a concentrated product line, so that one, we are not shipping water, and two, we that particular product will be an aluminum versus plastic, and so it can be reusable um, and not plastic. And so we just are really just trying to think of ways to be more eco-friendly all around. Um, y'all have to thank our zero wasters that always hold me to task and say, well, can you do this? I always take in consideration what our buyers say, especially those that are consistent in buying from us, because I know that they trust us as a brand. And so, not that everybody's opinion doesn't matter, but the ones that really are using our products, I really look at their opinion and value them, because it's like, okay, they really want to see, a good change for Pure Home, not just for themselves, but just for the environment. And we're, like I said, we love Mother Earth, and what we can do is be a better business in all of our practices.
Okay, I love that. So, as we wrap up, we love to end on what does it mean to be Black on shelf? And in your case, what does it mean to be a Black queer woman on shelf? Because I'm trying to get you comfortable, more and more comfortable with it publicly. I have you blushing over here.
Truly. It means advancement. Um, it's an amazing experience to be Black owned, Black woman owned, queer owned, and be on shelves, because there are not a lot of companies that are on shelf. We have a lot of small businesses that do exactly the same thing as I do. And so to actually walk into a store and see Pure Home on the shelves, we're not there yet, but we're getting there. And that would just be an amazing thing to see. It was amazing to see some of the certain brands like the Honey Pot, and the Black Girl sunscreen, and all of the hair care products and the lipstick and the cosmetics, and all of those things on the shelf. And so to add Pure Home to that would
a
just
new
be
category. We need you. We need to bring us to a new category.
yeah. And I talked to someone at Amazon, because they have Black Business Accelerator, and when I was onboarding with that, he looked and he was like, we don't have anybody in this category that's Black owned. And he was like, we have tons of candles, we have tons of hair care, we have tons of all these things that are wonderful and amazing, and contribute to the Black experience, but there's none. There's very few. I think there's maybe one other company that has their laundry detergent on there, but Pure Home, once we get all of our products there, would be really one of the only ones, and that's Amazon. And so They're the biggest
There's a lot of
retailer.
access that comes with that. The distribution, because your what we call in marketing your penetration, the amount of people you are
Yeah,
able to reach really increases
yeah,
a ton with
a
the
ton.
Amazon
Yeah,
relationship. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, so we're just working on it. We want to be there, and but we want to do our products really well, so that people feel confident and trustworthy of the brand Pure Home.
Yeah. Would you ever not have in-house manufacturing? Would you ever go at some point free up more time and have a contract manufacturer make them for you? Is that something you'd like to see in the future?
Yeah, we tested that out towards the end of last year, and it just was so expensive. But we have contracted a new manufacturer that we're hoping. We're not doing it with our consumer or direct to consumer online sales right now, but once we are get into retail, we're working with a specific retail brand. We are going to definitely do that as it picks up. So it takes a minute, because
Hmm.
manufacturers don't necessarily know green cleaners. That was our original manufacturer. It took months for them to figure it out and to, get the formulation, and they still
Adapted
ultimately.
to a scaled process. Yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't understand our ingredients. And
Okay.
so that goes to show, they are a big time manufacturer, and they were never familiar with any of our ingredients. And so they basically had to search and figure out, well, first of all, where do they get them? And then how do they work with them, to
Mhm.
create the product. And so I think that's what we were finding. We took a whole year just to find this new manufacturer. And so he actually is really good because he's very small business oriented. And so, it's just a little bit easier versus a
Yeah.
bigger manufacturer that, work with certain companies and on larger scales. So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
definitely.
literally a marathon, not a sprint, as you
Yeah,
can
absolutely.
see with Angela's case here. But it seems like you are in it for the long haul for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, we continue to root for your success with Pure Home. I challenge everyone in the Boss Fam community and those listening to purchase one item. Maybe it's the all-in-one cleaner concentrate as the entry product. If you love to run your dishwasher, go ahead and try the auto tabs. But I challenge you to go ahead and try one product from her cleaning line and let us know what you think of it. Uh, let us know how we can find you, Angela.
So we're on social media, Facebook and Instagram at Pure Home Clean. Our website is Shop Pure Home, and it's PUR and then Home. So PURHOME. So Pure Home Clean, and then Shop Pure Home on the
On the internet. This
internet.
was awesome. Thank you for coming, Angela.